Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Ayşe Sümerkar. Late last month, one of Turkey's leading defense companies, Havelsan, secured several agreements with Malaysia and Indonesia at a major international military fair. Their products cover combat management systems, cybersecurity, and other critical infrastructure. Turkey's latest deals add to a growing number of agreements its companies have made across the Asia-Pacific. But just how deep are those ties? Let's take a look at this report. And now to discuss Turkish defense deals in Southeast Asia, joining me now from London is Manas Chawla. He is the CEO of London Politica, a political risk advisory group. And from Ankara, Bilgehan Ozturk, he is a researcher at SETA Foundation. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you on the program. So, Bilgehan, Turkish defense companies have inked a serious military hardware agreements with Malaysia and Indonesia during an international military fair in Kuala Lumpur. So, is this a big step for Turkey's defense industry?
I consider every single deal made with foreign partners for export deals is significant for the defense industry because traditionally Turkish defense industry's, let's say, tendency has been inward-looking. The companies, the biggest companies, have been procurers of the Turkish military and other security institutions based on their demands. But recently, this trend has changed. And for the sake of sustainability, Turkish defense industry and Turkish decision makers realize the importance of exporting Turkish indigenous defense industry products, and at the same time embarking on joint production schemes with partners. So, in general, if you put this specific deals in general trend, I consider them quite significant.
Okay.
For the defense industry.
So, Manas, what do these deals tell us about Turkey's presence in the region? Is this set to expand further? How do you see it?
I mean, it certainly is set to expand further. In addition, last year we had the major Turkish defense manufacturer Roketsan announce its first deals to export land-to-land long-range artillery system Khan to Indonesia. And I can certainly see more developments happening in that specific relationship. And that's not to add that Indonesia and Malaysia have both expressed a very keen interest in buying armed drones from Turkish defense firm Baykar, the same company which played a crucial role in Ukraine. And lastly, Turkey's assumed chairmanship this year of the MIKTA group, the regional alliance. So defense will certainly be high on the agenda pushed to these regional governance forums.
So, Bilgehan, as Manas mentioned, besides Malaysia and Indonesia, Turkish companies have been cooperating closely with the Philippines, Pakistan, South Korea. So what's the nature of their ties and how do deep they go?
The nature of relation is, I think they have two different versions. One of them is, exporting Turkish defense industry products to these countries, but at the same time, joint production schemes too. So, for example, with Indonesia, Turkish defense industry is producing a middle range battle tank with Indonesia. It's a joint production. But for example, Pakistan, Türkiye exported Bilgehan corvettes, indigenously produced naval vessels, and I think with all these countries, the nature of relationship is two ways. So there's the direct import from Türkiye, but at the same time, joint production and cooperation in all these systems based on the mutual demand and mutual needs of these countries.
So, Manas, does a vast geographical distance between Turkey and the Asia Pacific affect its exports as well as its efforts to become an important defense partner with these nations, and maybe more to come?
Sure, the geographical distance plays, some degree of a role, and it certainly sort of helps to explain why Turkey has been somewhat of a latecomer to the region. But still, the biggest barriers are technical standard setting, and that's something that Turkey is working keenly on with its allies, particularly in the case of South Korea. Sort of earlier this year in May, it reintegrated South Korean tanks to the same technical settings to make them compatible with Turkish arms exports. And finally, Havelsan as a great example of Turkey's investments and exports in the cybersecurity realm, and those are clearly bridging the geographical divide between Asia Pacific and Turkey.
So, Bilgehan, how effective has Turkey's Asia Anew initiative, which was announced back in 2019, been in deepening defense cooperation with these regional countries?
I believe Asia Anew initiatives plays a huge part in Turkey's orientation towards these countries, particular countries, when it comes to defense deals. So there is a greater and far-reaching vision towards Asia Pacific, because of the awareness that there's the phenomenon of rise of Asia, and Turkey has to attend to that trend, and these corporations in defense industry, I think, a function or an extension of that awareness and of that wider strategy. And I believe it plays a huge role. It is giving the direction for Turkey's future ventures. And at the same time, there is the cordial relations with these countries between Turkey and I believe in defense products deals.
Yes.
It matters because defense deals tend to generate a dependence relations, and when you have a dependence relationship, you prefer to be with actors that you have cordial relations.
So, Manas, we talked about the Asia Anew initiative, which was announced in 2019. Do you think Turkey is kind of a newcomer to the region, and what are the challenges for the country to thrive as a major player in the Asia Pacific?
Turkey can use its growing and deepening ties with Asia Pacific to set a positive agenda with the West, and that's very clear. Defense agreements don't happen in silo; they happen in a broader cultural and economic environment, and Turkey is certainly moving to make sure that it's developing all of those sort of factors. But there's a number of challenges. It needs to stabilize its currency first and foremost, and the recent appointment of the central bank governor is a huge step in that. In terms of long-term trends, it needs to make sure that it can stymie the brain drain and keep young Turkish talent in the country and keep accelerating its own domestic dependence on its own Turkish firms, and that'll give it the strong base that it needs to export further into the Asia-Pacific region.
So, Bilge, where does Turkey's defense industry stand as a whole when compared to its competitors? Is there a long way to go?
Well, the sky is the limit, but obviously Turkish defense industry has progressed considerably, especially for the past 2 decades. When you compare Turkey's defense industry indigenousness level to the level as of today, the difference is huge. So, and at the same time, Turkish defense industry is in compliance with the NATO standards. So, in that sense, I believe Turkey has progressed. Turkish defense industry progressed a lot, in terms of the level of indigenousness in its products, but at the same time, it has been a long-time NATO ally who has been using in service NATO standards, ammunitions, weapons, and systems. And at the same time, the defense industry companies are also familiar with these standards. So I believe when it comes to international standards and competition, they fare really well. And that is part of the reason why there is a relatively, bigger interest in Turkish products, not just because they are cheaper compared to others, but at the same time, they are superior, especially against certain procurers.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we are out of time. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk.